Hello and good morning friends, welcome to CEC-UGC live lecture. Dear friends, as you know that we are carrying a series on education in Indian culture, and today this is the third lecture in the series, and I would like to tell you all for this we have again with us in our studios Dr. Shankar Kumar. He is Assistant Professor in Department of History, Hindu College, University of Delhi. So first of all I would like to welcome our guest Dr. Shankar Kumar. Dr. Kumar, welcome to the EduSet lecture. And as I said that this is the third lecture. This is in the continuation with the previous lecture we did. So over to you, sir.
Thank you, Geetika, and good morning, viewers. As you'd remember, we had earlier spoken of several things around this particular theme, education in Indian culture, and we had distinctly adopted historical perspective in order to understand the institutional nature of education, the way it was organized, the way it was formalized, the way it was segregated and transacted in the social reality of the ancient, medieval, and we took it up to the modern times, that is the colonial period. And in the process of doing so, we had adopted some kind of a unilinear approach in chronological sense. We proceeded from the earliest times and tried to locate traces where we have some kind of an evidence suggesting of the formal structure through which education was transacted. And we also saw the social milieu in which it was carried out, how the social stratification in the form of caste society and several other factors interacted with this institutionalized training and education. What we shall try to do today is to have some kind of a substantive idea. And it is in this way that today's lecture is by and large some kind of an addendum to what we have already done in historical perspective. And since we are talking of education as part of Indian culture, therefore, it is the permeability of what is taught, what is transacted as part of education. In this context, the content of education becomes important, and this is where the often debated issue of the separation between theory and practice, or the theoretical knowledge and the technology, so to say, or the applied side of it is spoken of, particularly with reference to ancient India. And there we discover that it is the inability of the two to come together in a very cohesive and seamless way, which some kind which in some way hindered the kind of output that this education could have generated. However, we cannot be historically anachronistic and can't expect that whatever is the desirable mode of transacting education today should always have been present in the ancient past. But in the earlier discussions that we have had, we have seen that ancient Indian knowledge system was by and large very transdisciplinary, and we have already alluded to several examples by which we have tried to establish that the disciplinary boundaries like mathematics, like medicine, grammar and phonetics, they all were not always so arranged in a watertight compartmentalized way as we tend to see in the modern times. Why this was so is also partly because the transaction of knowledge actually adopted the mode of oral form, that is, it was orally transacted, and therefore one had to resort to several mnemonic devices so that it could be memorized, so that it could be sung, so that it could be held in mind for a longer duration of time, and it becomes easy for the learner to learn it by heart. And since we are talking of a time which is separated from the present times by around 2000, 2500 years ago. Therefore, we need to have that kind of flavor, that kind of a backdrop in which we need to understand as to how education was transacted and what were the institutional means through which it was done. But today's lecture would essentially focus on some of the excerpts that I have pulled out from some of the ancient texts, which reflect on the sheer content of the material, of the matter, subject matter that was taught. And that also gives us some kind of a glimpse into the wide spectrum which was covered so far as transacting knowledge is concerned. However, as we said that occupational or professional knowledge always had some kind of segregation with the religious or ethical or moral aspect of knowledge in ancient India. And we shall just try and see what are the differing perspectives from say Brahmanical tradition, from the Buddhist tradition, Jain tradition, or for that matter reasonably secular traditions as exemplified in the works like Kautilya's Arthashastra and several other texts from ancient India and early medieval period. And we shall try to see as to how our understanding of the knowledge, the way it was transacted in ancient India as part of Indian culture, as part of the overall scheme in which the society transacted its everyday life. So it is with this intent that we should be looking at these excerpts. Now, if we look at the Vedic period, and here I don't exactly mean the Vedic shlokas and the religious aspect of it, particularly in the later Vedic times extending up to the 6th century BC, which is again regarded as one of the most important centuries in ancient India because of the sheer transformative force that was contained in this century, which was so crucial and almost played a determinant role in shaping the history and culture of the subsequent times. Now here, so far as the organization of learning is concerned, we find that it is the teacher's residence which happened to be the locus of organizing teaching learning, and it is what we understand as Gurukul Parampara. The students, pupils and mostly the Brahmins lived as members of the family. So the pupils' role here as part of the Gurukul Parampara was to help the teacher in the household activities, and there are references which allude to the fact that in case there is some kind of an attack, there is some kind of an invasion, then the students felt enjoined to help the teacher out and defend him. And so it was within some kind of a family ethos that this knowledge was transacted, and it is not on account of some kind of a regular fee that the student had to pay. Therefore, it is an extension of family life that we get to see in the Gurukul or Guru Shishya Parampara in ancient India. And the teacher also was expected, as is exhibited in several texts, that they were supposed to maintain high ideal kind of a character, and they were renowned on account of the depth of learning that they had, and that was their claim to fame. And we have several ashrams, several gurukuls by different people, and it is not it is not very tightly closed with respect to the Brahmins, because at times we also have the reference of Raja Janak, who was not a Brahmin, who is a Kshatriya, and yet there were several people who would throng to his place and would seek advice in matters of learning and knowledge. And if we talk of the content of the Vedic period, so far as transacting knowledge was concerned, these are the headlines, so to say, these are the high points, or these constituted what was actually transacted as knowledge. So the usual Vedic Samhitas, which included Rigved, Samved, Yajurved, Atharvaved. We also have the Brahmanas, and we are talking of the times up to 6th century BC, which is, as we said earlier, is a very crucial phase in ancient Indian history. So we have the Vedic Samhitas, which constituted one dimension of the content of the entire knowledge that was transacted. Brahmanas, Aranyaks, they are all later Vedic texts, and they are all within the Brahmanical framework by and large. And then we have Upanishads, which are more philosophical in outlook, which have a very strong infusion of logic and otherworldly concern, metaphysical aspects. There is a heavy infusion of argumentativeness, which is so central to transacting teaching, learning in ancient India, and we will see that debates constituted an integral part, or Vad Vivad constituted an integral part of teaching learning process in ancient India, and this is something which is carried over as some kind of collective Indian psyche even in the present times, and Tark Vitark parampara is something through which one tends to sharpen one's knowledge, and it was probably taught as a craft, particularly in the Buddhist traditions, as we shall see subsequently. Proper care was taken that the monks or the students in the monasteries are actually taught this art of refuting the counter arguments, particularly in the religious context, and that was one of the things, one of the skills that the student was endowed with. And so we need to understand this extraordinary focus on debates and Vad Vivad that we have. Apart from this, so far, that is Vedic Samhita, Brahmanas, Aranyaks and Upanishads, which can be regarded somewhat religious in nature, we have elements which are away from religious precincts, like Vyakaran, the grammar, Chand, Darshan, that is again philosophy. So they are also taught simultaneously, because there is no separation of religious literature with these seemingly secular aspects of learning. Because unless you are good in Vyakaran, unless you are aware of the Chand and the logic behind it, and also the philosophies embedded, so you perhaps won't be able to make out as to what is the real import of the religious literature itself is. And alongside this, the Tandya Brahmana does inform us that mathematics was also taught as a separate kind of discipline which facilitated the student so far as understanding the entire corpus of religious literature or other literatures are concerned. Because as we said that there is fair degree of infusion of several disciplines in ancient Indian knowledge system, and that is it what makes it fairly transdisciplinary in outlook and also content. We have already alluded to earlier instances in our earlier lectures where we have seen the interpenetration of medicinal data in mathematical work and mathematical data getting expressed, or mathematical theorems getting expressed in treatises on medicine, and the two texts are separated by 500-600 years. So that tells us about the extraordinary transdisciplinary character of ancient Indian knowledge systems. And here we see that what a student is supposed to have as part of his skill in order to grasp, in order to understand what actually was taught as the subject matter to them. Alongside Vako Vakya, that is logic, moral science, Ekayan, military science, Sainik Vigyan, science of snakes. This is a strange kind of an addition to the corpus of knowledge that we are talking of, because this appears to be very specific, yet one doesn't know. There could be some fascination, or it could be the medicinal aspect of it, or the health concerns, and maybe it could have been some kind of a menace. But this is something which is very much present even in medicinal treatises of Charak and Shushruta, and that's why this particular aspect, science of snakes, Sharpa Vidya, and also astrology, that is Daiva Vidya, they are all mentioned in Upanishads as disciplines, as separate specific topics, or we can say separate disciplines, which constituted part of the total knowledge system which was transacted in these institutions with the students. If we look at the mode of transaction, of course, we have spoken of this earlier also. The predominant mode of transacting teaching learning was oral, and writing was not as popular. Perhaps they had not taken to it in a big way at around this time. So by and large, it was the oral tradition within which the knowledge was transacted, and it was all ensconced. And therefore, heavy reliance on grammar and also lyrical aspect of the shlokas, the poetic presentation, the mixing up of prose and poetry in several treatises that we get to see is primarily because it has to be taken in, or it has to be delivered in oral form. And we all know that quite a few literary traditions in ancient India survived for a reasonably long time before actually being penned down. The entire Vedas survived its own age of creation of thousands years, of more than 1,000 years in oral form itself. And this is something which carries on in the Indian tradition, particularly in the rural tradition. We still find that the mathematical tables are orally transacted with the students, and they have some element of lyricism with it, and it is the lyrical aspect of that which allows the student to memorize it, and memorize it easily. So whatever is the content had to be presented in a lyrical fashion, which rendered it somewhat easy to be administered in oral form. And therefore, this was the predominant mode of teaching learning in ancient India. And Upanishads inform us that actually the process of knowledge acquisition has 3 steps, And this is important because at times the remark is given that there was a strong emphasis on rote learning and so forth. Therefore, we have, as per Upanishad, Shravan, Manan, and Nidhi Dhyashan, which is acting upon the learned things in life. So Shravan is listening to it, to hear something out. Manan is internalizing it, to understand it, to understand the real import of it. And Nidhi Dhyasan is the applied aspect of it. Once you are a learned person, particularly when you become a householder, a grihasth, it is at that point of time that you have to apply whatever you have learnt in your lifetime. So there is, at least theoretically, this focus on application of whatever has been understood or whatever has been assimilated as part of learning in ancient India. While talking of the beginning of the historical period, and here we mean the period from around, say, 600 BC onwards, more particularly around 300 BC onwards, we find the aims of education explicitly mentioned in some of the treatises, and that is what you can see on your slide. The Sutra literature, particularly the Kalpa Sutra, does tell us that pupils, once they become a householder, should repay the debt to the three, that is, gods, sages, and ancestors. So the education here is presented as some kind of an enabler to repay the social debt, and this offers some kind of a crucial insight into the aims and objectives with which knowledge was transacted in ancient India. So there is some kind of a social debt. So an educated person needs to give something back to the society, to the gods. So there is fair degree of religiosity here, and also the sages, who are renunciators, who are teachers, and who are meditators, and they have to be given back something, because it is on this social kind of capital that they have to survive, and also the ancestors. So some kind of continuity could be maintained from past, and the historical heritage is taken care of through such aims and objectives. In Smriti literature, which is of course again pertaining to the historical period that we are talking of, we find that education is projected as some kind of an enabler to make material and spiritual progress. And it also tells us about education befitting the particular occupation as a householder. So it is not only about the otherworldly concerns or the morality or the ethical aspect which is presented as education, but there is focus on occupational aspect also. Mahabharata tells us that education enables us to follow dharma in right earnest, as is expected. Dharma included several other duties, social duties, and one's responsibility as an earner and as maintainer of the household also. So it is dharma which comes into focus. Some of the foreign accounts tell us about the character building and personality development embedded in Indian educational system, and also the focus on preserving cultural heritage that we have already spoken of. In non-Brahmanical traditions, particularly in the Buddhist traditions or the Buddhist monasteries, which subsequently went on to become the sites of Buddhist teaching learning process, we find that the ultimate objective was to make an ideal monk who could debate and refute the arguments of other sects that we have already spoken of towards the beginning of the lecture. Hence, there is some kind of a focus, extra focus on teaching logic and Nyaya philosophy to the Buddhist disciples. We have texts from 4th century, as you can see on your slide, 4th, 5th century works, which have quite a good number of chapters exclusively devoted to the skill of debating. And it makes three categories of learners, that is monks, children who are aspiring to be monks, and also the brahmacharis who ultimately are going on to become simple lay followers, and they also are exposed to secular education as such. In the Jainas, which again constitute the part of non-Brahmanical system, we have very explicit twofold division into householders and the monks, and so the teaching learning has to be transacted in two different ways. Of course, for the monks, the training was supposedly more rigorous, and for a lay follower or someone who goes on to become a simple householder, for them the exposure to the secular or occupational aspect of learning was accentuated. So we find that in ancient India, since we have already spoken of the historical trajectory in which knowledge was transacted, the way it evolved, today's lecture was essentially about understanding the pith and substance of the content of education, the subject matter of education, particularly with reference to ancient India.
With this note, thank you, sir. Thank you so very much. And in future lectures, we would be studying more and more through you. With this note, we take your leave. Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.